everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka it's Beaver Mosh. And today I have a special guest. I am joined by Ryan Tysinger. You may know Ryan as Doomfrog from Twitter. Ryan is a contributor from Your Last Rites. And before we get into this discussion, I do want to thank my latest patron, Jake Walters. Thank you, Jake, for the support. Now, Ryan, how are we doing tonight? Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Pretty good. Um, got off work a little late, rushed home, cleaned up, listened to some music, and butt is in seat.
Hell yeah. I think you're probably, if it's okay for a little story, I think you might be having a better day than I am. I almost got scammed for $300 today. I was trying to sell a MacBook on Marketplace. And long story short, they were able to send me this very official looking email saying that they wanted like a security payment to verify my account on Cash App to send $300. And I almost fell for it. And I'm so glad that didn't happen. Uh, but that's my day.
Oh,
Uh,
that,
and
that,
yeah. um, anyway, the reason I have you on today, and I'm going to title this episode "Talking About Metal," is that you and I both kind of do the same thing. We are on the outside listening to a shit ton of riffs, and we talk about it in different formats. And I thought it'd be cool to kind of share our shared experiences, our perspectives, and kind of give our readers, our viewers, an inside look at what we do. So, Ryan, let me ask you this: how did you get started at Your Last Rites, and kind of what is your role
okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I
there?
love the idea. I love talking about metal. I love
Yeah,
talking about metal. So,
yeah,
um, but yeah, I got started on Last Rites. I am coming up, uh, finishing up my fifth year there.
hmm,
I just started talking about metal on Twitter.
yeah.
Ended up writing for a little zine called Blessed Altar, and
I'm familiar.
yeah, and ended up getting poached up by Last Rites, and
Hmm.
they were a site I had been reading for a while, and really thought, hey, I like the way these guys talk about metal stuff,
Yeah.
and it's been a great fit.
And what what's your focus over at Your Last Rites? Is it how do you think your that site differentiates itself from other metal blogs?
Oh, I don't know. It's just um, I don't. We're a real tight crew. Like we're all friends.
Hmm.
We're real close. We usually get up every year, either MDF or right now we're kind of splitting between MDF and Hell's Heroes.
Yeah.
But we get up and again, we're real close. We talk about music all day. Um, and it's just, it's more of like a, hey, we all kind of do this thing together
Hmm.
more than trying to find an audience or anything. It's just like, hey, we like this. We're going to talk about it.
You mentioned MDF. Are you going to be there this year or
Uh,
this next year?
oh, I'm one of the traders that's going to Hell's Heroes this year.
Well, I will be at MDF, Maryland Death Fest, for those that know, but I'm sure you are also going to have a great
Yeah, likewise. MDF
time.
rule.
Yeah, I've always said this, but I really appreciate on Your Last Rites the power metal and traditional metal emphasis, or at least the effort to cover it a lot, that I think is not always present on metal websites. Why do you think it's such a hard sell sometimes?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of got its own little thing going
Hmm.
on. Uh, but like, because there are power metal fans that are just power metal fans. It's like
Yeah,
power metal, and like I don't like the screaming vocals and all that stuff. But I don't know. I don't see why a lot of these bands don't get coverage. I mean, there's plenty of a fan base for it. Uh,
hmm,
Traditionally, I don't think America has quite been as on board as like say Europe or like
Right.
Brazil, like Angra and Ibria. They've got some power down there too.
Yeah.
But like Europe, it's huge. It's its own like whole culture,
Hmm.
almost apart from kind of the Black Death thrash.
And not to say that the U.S. doesn't contribute to power metal, just like the
It's,
U.S. like kind of history of power metal is more aggressive. It's different.
and but like I'm talking like Euro style power metal.
Yo, yeah.
But there's just hasn't been an audience. Like when Blind Guardian used to come here, there's like nobody. Like Halloween was just like it's not worth it for us to tour the U.S. It won't.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think that's kind of changed. Like you're seeing a lot more of those bands coming up. You're seeing more of these like traditional and power metal fests like Hell's Heroes or
Yeah.
before Austin Fire. They're mad.
I will be seeing Blind Guardian when they come to the US in May, and I'm curious, like what is the crowd gonna be? This is gonna be a big draw. I mean it's
Well,
Blind Guardian, but I don't know.
yeah, well, I think that's changed a lot. Again, you had, on the more surface level, like bands like Sabaton and all that.
Hmm.
The Last Rites guys, his son, that's like his favorite band. I'm Sabaton, they're fine.
Yeah.
But they're like his favorite band, and just seeing how excited he is for it, and like how curious he gets, and we keep trying to
Hmm.
send recommendations. He even wrote a blurb on the site when Captain did that whole ranked 100 greatest power metal albums of all time up to this
Yeah.
point, like a 4-part series. It's fantastic.
It was incredible. I read the whole thing.
Yeah, and again, you're talking about that's part of the reason it keeps me there because I read the stuff that these guys write, and it just yeah,
Hmm.
excitement.
You're right about the audience. Like I've had to kind of learn that myself when I'm like covering stuff that like I might the videos that I am like making in regards to a traditional metal record or a power metal record may not have the same viewers as when I talk about a black metal record. There's sometimes that just doesn't cross. In fact, I met somebody at work who came in with a Camelot hoodie because they had just saw Camelot who was in my city the night before. And so I just thought I'd start talking to them about metal, assuming that they were a metal fan. And they were a metal fan, but they did not really weren't interested in anything outside of like progressive metal like Dream Theater or like power metal. Like they were very much in their lane, which is cool, which is fine. Which they do have their own. It is kind of its own subculture within the metal subculture.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think there's nearly as much crossover in listenership into where somewhere like Twitter generally tends to be.
Hmm.
There's like a couple of us power metal fans in there fighting the fight. It's
Yeah.
kind of we've all sort of
Yeah.
crossed.
I guess I'm the I guess I'm the weirdo who just kind of exists in both worlds. I nerd out over the very underground raw black metal stuff, and I love a cheesy power metal album. There's space for both of them.
Yeah. Like sing louder than everything else, like turn up the rawness, turn up the power, turn up the cheese sometimes. Like
Hmm.
there's a weird line for power metal bands with me where it's like, okay, this is too cheesy, and then they're stepping over that line into like this is so cheesy, it's just over the top, and you just have to appreciate
There
the
was that record that came out last year, the uh, Fellowship records, the Saberlight Chronicles. That
yeah.
was so incredibly corny, and it was proud of it, and I loved the hell out of it for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Fellowship record. The vocals, I'm still like, I'm coming around to them. Like I
Sure.
can, I like the music. Just, I just have to kind of change my mindset to approach it.
Hmm.
I think I might come up. I know it's
Yeah,
a lot of praise, but something about the vocals just hasn't quite had that aha moment for me.
that's
But
fair.
point though, like the Twilight Force record that came out this year, like
Yeah,
that's
great record.
just so over the top. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like in Mel Brooks movies, where you keep the joke going for long enough, the joke dies, and then you keep doing it, and then it becomes funny again.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of does that with the excitement.
Yeah, no, 100%. And are you you're were you did you listen to, or I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with Theocracy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. They're a Christian power metal band, and I don't usually go out of my way for like Christian lyrics, but I don't care when I listen to Theocracy because it's just so effervescent and the riffs kill, and it's like it's just a quality power metal
yeah. I think they're again talking about like the crossover. I think there's like they're very much. I get why a Christian band would like gravitate towards something like power metal.
record.
Just so it kind of fits almost.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and I'm
Now,
surprised there aren't more like. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of Christian power metal bands, but I'm surprised there aren't more the size of something like Theocracy.
yeah, I know like Seven Angels is another Christian power metal band in Narnia, but neither of them are nearly as enjoyable as Theocracy. Um,
I
but
like it.
I
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Keep going.
I like it when it's not blatant.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, okay, yeah, there's like, it's fine if there's Christian like undertones or whatever, but there's other bands I like that, like Trouble and that sort of thing.
Yeah, Troubles is kind of the the band for like having like religious imagery, I think. Witch Hazel 2 doesn't seem to bother me at all. Um, now now the thing we both do is, we both review records, right? And I've I've heard the take. Why would I care about a review? I just want to listen to it myself and make up my own thoughts. And I'm not pushing back against it. In a way, I agree. But and I have my response to that. But I'm just kind of curious. What do you make out of that idea, and what would be your response as someone who writes and talks about metal records?
I come across that a lot when I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I putting so much time into this?
Yeah.
But I guess I don't really do it for an audience.
Mhm.
Like I was saying with Last Rites, I'm more trying to sell them on it,
Yeah.
or to just put down some thoughts about it. And some of my reviews like aren't even really reviews at some points. It's just more like, hey, like this is neat, like kind of breaking it down and dissecting it, or just talking about the headspace it puts me in.
Right. When I'm reviewing a record, I don't score anything. That's not my point. I don't even think I'm like quote unquote a review in like the conventional sense. What I'm doing is I'm not telling anyone what to think. That's not my goal. I just like finding records and then like telling people why I like it and recommending it and giving and putting language to it. And it's I look out for reviews for that purpose because I like seeing what it's doing for other people. I don't need to be told that it's good or bad. I kind of like seeing how it's impacting and hitting for other people.
Yeah, my friend's son, it's the same thing. Like I was talking about, like just seeing him getting excited for Sabaton.
Hmm.
Me, like okay, yeah, like yeah, I still don't love it, but like I appreciate it a lot more.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't.
Exactly. Like seeing someone like I've had this experience where I've listened to a record and thought, okay, it's decent. I didn't get it at the time, but then seeing someone else talk about it and really enjoy it and reading why they enjoyed it gives me an idea of what to go back into and maybe listen for in a second listen, and maybe it kind of opens up to me more.
Yeah, uh, yeah, or yeah, it's not trying to change your mind, but maybe set a perspective.
Set a perspective. I like that. what would you say even is the role as the quote unquote metal music? You know, the writers, the podcasters, the people who talk about riffs. You know, why does it exist? Why are there so many blogs? Why are there websites dedicated to talking about metal?
Just in like why metal specifically, or like what is the role?
I guess what is music journalism? You know, like what is the point of it? You know.
For me, it's just the ultimate point of fandom, where you
Hmm.
like so much you want to get involved. And I mean, this was the way for me to offer something. You know, whether or not it's all that effective is anybody's game, but you know, maybe I'm helping. You know,
Well, I mean, it's exactly the same for me. I've gotten asked why did I start this channel, and that's the obvious reason that like I love this shit and I wanted to do something active with it, and I saw kind of a hole where I didn't think there was a lot of people doing what I was doing, so I was like, well, I can contribute in this capacity, and here we are.
yeah. And you know, we're fans, and
Yeah.
you know, fans need fans. Like it's just supporting,
Yeah.
trying
Well,
to be loud about it, I guess.
yeah. Uh, I'm curious because you are also someone who I see tweeting a lot and posting about new records that you're coming across or just like discovering stuff. And I'm curious, like, what is your personal process for taking in new music? Are you always listening to something? Do you have a system for what you want to hear and write about? What is kind of your intake strategy?
uh, Chaotic.
Same.
Yeah, sometimes I'm in the mood to listen to new stuff. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
not. Sometimes I want to just explore old stuff, and sometimes I'm not. So I just listen to music. If I have something I think's cool, I talk about it or I post it.
Hmm.
I had a few thoughts. Um, there's sometimes it's hard not to get a little jaded when you see the way that you start seeing how the sausage is made, so to speak. Uh, so I try to just not engage too much in the promo cycles and all that. Like they're important and they serve a role. And like yeah, it's okay
Hmm.
every 2 months put out a record, or you know it goes through the PR and then it goes to the release date comes back. That's the cycle. And I don't listen to music like that. I don't.
Okay.
I It's a huge universe. And granted, I spend most of my time over in the little metal corner because I like it. But you know, I like other stuff too. But it is there's so many different directions you can go in at any time.
Oh yeah.
You know, sometimes I focus in on a country and like get really caught up in a scene or an era or a specific sound and just start digging through bands.
Hmm.
And that's how I've always listened to music. That's why I love listening to music. So I try to keep that as organic as possible. I'm not trying to break it down into some kind of over organized system or anything like that. So I just don't think music really works like that.
You, I hear you almost like echoing my inner monologue there because I also kind of approach music in a similar way, and I nerd out in that, and I love hearing someone else kind of say that. Like I sometimes I'm like this musical idea, this scene. Oh, who was doing this? Who influenced that? And it just gets you down these crazy rabbit holes, and all of a sudden you're 57 Wikipedia pages deep, just like how did I get here? But I can't stop. And then all of a sudden, those open up new doors, and you constantly want to explore and explore. And I'm always like, which direction am I going in today? What am I finding today? You know, and I'm just kind of come to the piece of the fact like I'm never going to get anywhere close to finish with what I want to hear. but I'm gonna try. And it's kind of fun to chase it. Like it's almost like I play a lot of video games, and it's like there's always like these completionists in a game, right? They want to collect every item, they want to max out every skill. You'll never be able to do that in a lot of games, but you try, and you just keep playing until you get as far as you can. And that's kind of how I approach listening to music. I'm just gonna get as far as I can and see where I get.
Yeah. Why climb Everest? Because it's there.
And in reality, and I know this about you too, is that the reason we talk about metal, but in reality, we both just want to be Twitch streamers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I
yeah,
pay more through Need for Speed Underground than I could ever type.
yeah. I don't think I've ever played Need for Speed, but seeing you talk about it online, I am interested. I want to at least try it sometime.
I just only have an old system and I go in and out of video games.
Yeah.
So, when I want to play some video games, I just pop on the PlayStation and throw on I think this game is over 10 years old or something like
Is it a PS1, PS2?
that. PS3. Thank you so much
Okay. Wow, we're even considering the PS3 like a vintage system. Like we have really advanced.
for the system. But that's the thing. It's like it's not retro, but it's also not, you know, up on everything. It's just kind of mid. I like
Yeah.
mid.
Well, I'm a PC gamer, so I don't know if that's like where that puts me.
Um, you can do it. I just think some of the simple games, it's fun to just half the time I listen to them because if you haven't noticed, I'm fidgety. It's just something to do while I listen to music, and I
Mhm.
do something over and over again. While
Same. I love I people ask me how do I listen to so much music. It's like, well, I'm always doing something that doesn't require like a lot of this like energy. I can just like put like my like I kind of sit still and just like do stuff with my hands, with you video games, and I'm always in taking music that way, and it kind of grounds me. And so like the having two things while having the one thing allow you to kind of give like pretty much all your attention to the music is kind of a big deal for
yeah, exactly.
me.
It's the same thing here.
Mhm. Now we are
Really,
you.
on we got to figure out how to get played to play video games and listen to music all day.
Yeah, there are people who play video games professionally, and I'm like, what? That's how did you get that gig? That's incredible. Anyway, we you mentioned promos, and my inbox is overwhelmingly full of them. You say you don't play the promo game, but I'm
I mean,
sure.
I mean, I listen to them and so I just don't feel like I have to hear every single new promo, or I mean, that not that that's even possible, but also I'm terrible about writing things by the 2 weeks before release date or whatever.
Mhm.
It's there, it's done when it's done.
Yeah, yeah. I Yeah, I'm the same way. I never like trying to get too advanced on them, but I'm curious because I think people who aren't in our position maybe don't see the whole promo sphere of all these, PR companies and labels who constantly want to send out their music to get listened to and talked about. And it's an important part of the industry. I mean, like bands need that promotion to get noticed. But I'm curious if maybe not your what you do. How do people at your last ride kind of go through promos? How do they sift through it? How do they decide? Okay, this is what I'm going to open. I'm going to open up this email and I'm going to press play with it. Like what's kind of the thought process behind that?
Well, I can't speak for anyone else there, but for me, it's just again, I don't think too much about it. I just if something catches my eye, think like, hey, that's a cool band name. I'll open this up, or oh, this
Mm,
is this label, or and I really like this label, but sometimes it's just random. I've got time on a Saturday, like, hey, let's just go through and check out some promos.
mhm. I think if anyone who is involved in the writing or the sending of promos is watching this, and I suspect that a few will be, I will say for me, um, a big thing is if you put the profanza like very noticeable in the subject line, where I know
That's
what
a
this is and what I'm going to get and what I can expect, I am way more likely to like want to engage.
that's a good point. Uh, I don't want to suggest putting them in the subject line because that feels like it would just make a
Make it like to where when I click it, I see it right away. I guess. I guess.
or at the very least, genre, or if it's without, because not everything fits into like one neat little box.
Yeah.
I think in that case, that's when you try to come up with like maybe a different sort of hook or approach.
Because also like I'm a metal show and I'm pretty adamant about I'm talking about metal. Not that I don't listen to other genres, I do, but I'm going to talk about metal and sometimes I'll get punk promos or like hard rock promos or like dungeon synth promos, which great, but I'm I can't talk about that. That's not the focus of my show. And I kind of wish I can know that that's what that is before I click on it, just so I know it limits kind of what I have to sift through, you know?
Yeah, just an easy, quick filter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Well, I guess I'd like to ask you on a more personal basis, how did you even get started with metal? Do you have an origin story?
Um, it was a slow burn. I
Hmm.
was punk in like middle and high school,
Yeah,
and started coming across some of the bands, the Slayer and all that.
of course.
I hate Metallica, but that was because I only heard the stuff on the radio. And then late night they'd do the like whole hour of Metallica where they play like old stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same band. It's fast, aggressive music. Didn't think too much about it. And one of the bands that the punk band I played in at the time, uh, we used to just have these kind of grab bag shows, like multi-genre, like high school kids.
Yeah.
And there was one band there called Viper, and they went on stage and they were awesome. Like I was kind of just the old school heavy metal, except for like Iron Maiden, Sabbath.
Yeah.
But I was like, there's too much spandex, there's too much leopard, and I love all that shit now. But yeah, they went on, they killed it. The singer ended up going on, he's in Twisted Tower Dire now, which is pretty like awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing that, and I was like, I'm gonna start like checking out more of this, and started picking up Iron Maiden, kind of just as I went along, and just brought some metal into my repertoire, and then I found black metal. And that's when I went from like, oh yeah, I just like fast aggressive music to I need to hear every single metal thing, and then just like went through doom and deeper thrash bass, death metal, all of it.
That's I got goosebumps hearing you talk about that because like I have a very different and also very similar story. So I grew up, and I've talked about this before, grew up very evangelical, not by choice, it's how I was raised. I think there's a lot of people in metal who can kind of relate to growing up in like a fundamentalist household. Um
My fiance for one.
but and I brought up Christian metal to like theocracy because I've heard a lot of Christian metal that's not good because that's what I listened to as a kid. I had someone in my church um hand me a compilation of a Christian metal label, and there was Christian black metal on there, and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. I get to be edgy and still live for the Lord. Give it to me. And so I got really into the weird, very niche Christian underground metal scene. Of course, that didn't last very long, but it was my introduction to the various subgenres of metal, and I know I liked the sound. Um, Long story short, we don't. I. It's not an interesting story, but I very much not religious anymore. I think that's obvious. But I once I got to open up to the secular world, I found myself on the internet once again, the Reddit and stuff, and I remember coming across black metal subreddits. And like, oh shit, I remember loving that. And then all of a sudden, I am like Darkthrone, enslaved, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is incredible. What is where do I go next? What does this band sound like? What are bands that sound like this? And then I'm starting like, okay, there's other metal subgenres. There's death metal, there's doom metal. All of a sudden, I'm discovering more and more, and the thing is branching out in this big web, and like my mind is like making diagrams in my head, and then I'm like, okay, there's all this extreme metal, and then I found, okay, what's the roots? So then I got into like more traditional metal, like Iron Maiden. They were not my gateways. The black metal was my gateway to the gateway bands, and then I'm like, okay, there's all this like this other world of like traditional metal, yeah, like that's and I'm still discovering stuff, but like that's kind of how it started. That's how that was the spark.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. It's very similar. It's once you, it's like hitting gas and just
Yeah. Do you do you recall like what was the first like black metal record that hit you and like
oh,
this is it?
I can tell you exactly which one it was. It was I'm
Please.
butcher the name, but Siebenbergen, Loria. It's
I'm not
such
familiar.
it's a weird first. Uh, it's not as like we're doing the for fans of game. I'd say for fans of Cradle of Filth,
Okay.
it's not quite as it's not exactly Cradle of Filth, but they're definitely from that same era. It's a '97 album, very operatic.
Hmm.
I heard and I was just, what is this? And then from there, just like started looking into black metal and Mayhem, Dark Throne,
Yeah.
whole shebang. From there, next thing you know, you're crawling into some country you've never heard of, and like this awesome scene they had from like '94 to '97.
Hmm. Well, the first black metal album I ever heard, going back to the Christian days, there was a band called Crimson Moonlight on black metal. Honestly, not that bad compared to some of the other stuff. There's also Ancestor, but I remember the first, like in my reintroduction to metal, was definitely Transylvanian Hunger. Um, I heard that riff to the title track, and it's kind of want to keep hearing it over and over again. It's so simple, so to the point, but so meditative. It's just like it's classic for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, that was a huge one where you're just like, oh, like you start to get like the raw stuff and like how it all just sort of flows
Uh-huh.
together. It's definitely
So
entire.
yeah, well, we are in we're in list season now.
Mhm.
Everyone is sharing their lists, some coming out earlier than others. I know I'm going to be working on mine. I am working on mine. Um, I'm sure you are working on one yourself. I see that your last rights has already put some stuff out in terms of like the end of year list type. Um, why do you think people care about this so much? Like, why is it such a thing that like we feel like we have to talk, we have to talk, we have to recap our year based on our favorite albums?
Um, I think, like you said, the like the charts going off in your head when you start like
Yeah.
organizing. It's just something about the way our nerdy brains work. They just love to pick apart, categorize, list,
Yeah.
organize, and it's just fun to do. Like every year, I'm like, oh, this season's coming up. Like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to rank down to 20. Like I have usually it's like 1 through 7. That I'm like, yeah, these are definitely in. But
I'm I'm nervous because I feel like I'm gonna miss something. Like I know like what there's probably an album that I hyped earlier in the year, but it just hasn't. It's just been too long that I'm gonna forget it. I have to like I'm like I have to go back and look through everything I listen to. Like I'm go again. I have to be thorough about this. And it's kind of stressful, but it's also kind of a fun stressful.
Yeah, I keep a notes app on my phone. Uh,
Yeah,
if there's something that hits me and I'm like, yeah, I'm really liking this, I'll jot it down immediately because I know if I wait a couple hours and what was that band again?
yeah.
Then I know, okay, this is one to like go back to. So just as I'm going, jot them down.
I really like this season, not just for my own sake. It is a fun content to make. Um, I like going through other, lists of places I respect, people whose taste I like really admire, because there's always something that I find out that I like overlooked. There always is, and it'll come up on a list like, oh, interesting. I think I saw that cover, or maybe I just listened to it and like didn't hit me at the time. There's always like something to discover too with a season that like I think everybody misses something.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
There's so much out there, and especially when you have a broad palette. Um, like we were saying with the whole power metal thing, that's like trying to keep a whole foot in an entirely different world.
Yeah.
Uh,
I almost wish I didn't have such a broad palette. It would be easier. I can't help it though. I like what I like.
yeah. Only thrash metal from now on. Only thrash.
uh, yeah. I'll, Thrash is also interesting because I'm not gonna say there isn't like a lot of thrash being made. There definitely is, but it feels like there's less thrash metal albums that really stick out to me, and I don't know why that is. Like I think like a lot of the thrash that comes out, minus a few like highlights, just kind of seem like it's just kind of following a formula.
Yeah. Well, there's just a lot of bands that play thrash.
Yeah,
uh, but yeah, I don't know. There's usually a couple every year that, like you said, stick out, and I'm happy with that. Like if
yeah.
there's you that rise up out of like the giant pool of thrash bands, fine. Like keep them coming. Like,
There was a crossover thrash record that came out earlier this year by we have a UK band named Pascal that I remember knocked me on my ass, and I remember that record and it stuck with me, and that was kind of my thrash highlight of the year. There's always one or two, and you know what? It might not be a genre like death metal where I can like list like 30 records that like blew me away, but thrash isn't dead, and there's always at least a couple of thrash metal records that really satisfy
yeah, that's I like a lot of the Chilean thrash. So like I just something you were again talking about things that come through and like how do you sort through it. If I see Chile next to thrash, I'm checking it out.
Oh yeah, what is happening in Chile? That there's so much good stuff coming out of Chile. Thrash for sure. There's also a lot of Chilean death metal, even like Chilean trad metal.
Mhm.
What is happening in Chile? Do you have any insight on that?
I can only guess, and a lot of these bands are dudes that have been playing for a while.
Yeah.
It's They'll be a band, they'll put out two albums, they'll break up, they'll kind of like rearrange different members, and you know how it is. But I think a
Hmm.
lot of those, this next generation of bands are finding their stride,
Hmm.
and a lot of them just want to get real creative with it. I think demoniac, hellish, like that whole scene over there. It's they have just found a way to make it still feel old, like that kind of old metal,
Yeah.
but breathe this life into it that is just
Mm.
doesn't just feel like it's worshiping the old days.
Yeah.
It just feels alive and immediate.
Yeah. I remember, I know you and I both were quite high on that Mortice record from a Valparaiso band, Valparaiso, Chile. And my thing about it was it felt very old school trad metal, but it was also very outwardly Chilean. It just like it sounds it was bringing out the colors, the vocal style. Like it was very much of that region, but also very much
Yeah,
old school metal record. It was so interesting to me and very lively.
it's got a very Latin flair to it.
Uh-huh.
Go bits, the way the vocals like do those harmonies and just some of the keys that they choose to play in.
The keys, the rhythms. Like it has some very unique rhythm that you don't hear in like every metal record.
Yeah, it's got some bounce to it.
Yeah.
Other bands obviously have bounce, but it's not like the Maiden like kind of gallopy bounce. It's like again a little bit more that like 1-2 snappy like Latin.
Yeah. It has some sauce to
Yeah, yeah.
it. Yeah.
You can dance to it, you know.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. I
Track 3 on that Ortiz. Try to put that on and not dance to it. It's just
it's a shoe in for my end of year list. Like there are like I'm gonna have to go through, but there are records that, like I that is on it. That is one of the records that like it's no questions asked. I played it at my work once, and I had customers come up to me who like probably aren't metalheads, but like we're like, whoa, what is this? This is so cool because I think that the Latin flavorings, the Latin aspects of it, people like, even if you kind of like disregard the metal aspect, which I think is cool. I think it's really cool when bands bring up different aspects you don't like traditionally associate with metal, but when it's in like a right metal context, it just fucking works. Like, you think Panopticon with the bluegrass aspect.
yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
something of where it's infused and not like shoehorned because there's and there's some like those folk metal bands that are fun as hell, but
Yeah.
it feels like it's like okay, we just took metal and then like layered this on top. But when it's
Hmm.
like with Vortice or like you said, Panopticon and that or something like Black Braid, where it's just kind of interwoven into the music.
Yeah.
It's
So there's like the subgenre black gaze, which I'm not always the biggest fan of. I think there are some bands who I think just kind of like, how do we add some metal into this music for a shoegaze crowd? But there are bands who I think are like black metal bands who like, okay, we also enjoy some of these gazy aspects, and how do we incorporate it in a way that feels very natural? And when I feel that, then I'm totally in. So I don't like totally write off black gaze, but it's like a harder sell for me.
yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
you just your taste and uh, but I just think there's something really special about when it's just feels organic.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I'm curious for your perspective because I'm trying to figure out for myself, but who do you think your audience is? I mean, I'm assuming you're not aiming your content with the idea that you are writing to someone who is looking for a heavy metal 101. I'm not necessarily trying to be that. I'm not trying to gatekeep people who want that. But I'm like, I know that probably the majority of people who are watching my content have heard like the first five Black Sabbath records. I'm just kind of assuming, or at least have heard most of it.
Yeah, just I don't want to. It's yeah, just an underground audience, like
Sure.
in the place of what like a fanzine would be back in the day, but hopefully like a well photocopied and well distributed.
Hmm.
But just try to be honest about what I'm writing or feeling about the music and put it out there, and hopefully somebody who's into the same things I am and finds it and then finds it to be as enjoyable as I do.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like too much to it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. Like if people want primers, I guess, that content's out there, and I'm glad that content is out there because if if you're someone who heard Metallica for the first time, through Stranger Things, that was a big controversy a couple years ago. That's fantastic. I'm so glad you're in the fold. And I'm glad there are people that will, give you like this is the basics. This is how you get into metal. That's fantastic. But I don't think I'm that. Like I don't want to push those people away. And I'm glad if you want to watch my channel, but I think like my voice, my point of view is that like I want to talk to people that are already interested in some of the more extreme kind of esoteric sound. Like recommend stuff that I'm discovering in that realm that I think people that already kind of are fans of what I'm a fan of would want to hear.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, there's the there are fans that do that sort of thing. It's like, okay, well, you've got this corner covered, and then I've got
Yeah.
this. Just it all kind of works together, and I wouldn't say I'm searching for an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I'm covering some ground.
Well, I mean, you have a reader here. I mean, I am your side, angry metal guy, no clean singing, new Pavy. I'm sure there are others that I'm clearly missing, but I'm definitely as much as I am a content creator, I am a reader of the places too, and I'm always looking for those
I'm,
articles.
I'm a fan of
So
Grizzly. Uh,
Grizzly Butts too, yes.
you got to get past that first paragraph. Every time I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get in, like his recommendations are great. I do like his writing style.
Yeah. I think the short reviews thing that he puts out is really helpful too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hate Meditations is another one that I think is smaller, but I think it's growing. I like that there's like a diverse crew of metal talker abouters, I guess.
Have you found Grug?
Grug? No.
Oh, let me put this is the greatest thing. I'm sorry for the pause, and but I found this site the other day, and this
It's all
guy's on
great.
this guy or gal or they or them is on Twitter. Rug. I'm sorry. I am.
No, you're good.
Oh yeah, Grug Listen Music at Grug Listen Music on Twitter. Their links are on there. It is a Neanderthal reviewing metal.
That is so good.
As soon as you're like, why didn't I think of that?
Wait, what is it called again? Grug?
Yeah, Grug Listen Music, one word.
I find they follow me. Well, I am sorry that I haven't followed you in the past, but I am clicking the follow back button right now. Uh, to anyone out here, if you follow me and I don't follow you back, don't take it personal. There's so many people on Twitter. Uh,
Yeah, it
but
happened. But yeah, so
but
shout Oog.
Grug, you have inspired you have inspired you've inspired somebody. So well done, Grug.
They're really brief, pretty brief reviews, but very tell you exactly what you need to know, and they have an absolute blast with their voice. So,
There's a lot of people like that on Twitter who don't really have like an official platform, but still just like will like give short forms about records, and I appreciate that. I see them. I am on Twitter and I see and I appreciate them, and I give you your like buttons.
and that's another way. Sometimes I find stuff like if
Yeah,
something one of those quick brief review catches my, I'm like, oh, that sounds like something I like. I,
Hmm.
I bookmark the link at least.
Yeah, and I try to do that too. Like, while I do have my like things that I put stuff out, I also just like tweeting stuff that I'm like too that I'm like, oh wow, this fucks. Bandcamp link, album art, we're sending that out on the internet here.
Hands first, always. Like
Yeah.
something you're excited about it, you want to scream from the rooftops,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why is metal so great? Do you have an answer for that? Why do we like it?
These fools.
It
So
really does.
it can, I mean, any music can do this really, but
Yeah.
for what reason, for some of us, it resonates on a level where it just makes you, it can make you like, really believe in something, or it can just drive a stake right through your heart.
Yeah. I the other day,
Anything louder than everything else.
yeah, it is louder than anything else. The other day I went to a little small record shop near my apartment, just kind of thumbing through, and I found the Unleashed in the East by Judas Priest, and a used copy, and I geeked the fuck out, like awesome, like, and I've heard that record 1,000 times, but I'm like, I want it, give it to me, and I'm like, just those like little moments that I get to like feed my inner nerd is like, this is awesome.
Even when I'm looking through records at the record store, like I'll see
Yeah,
something I already have, but I'll be so excited just to see it in there. I'm like, oh my god, they've got this.
yeah. They at the record store, the same record store, they had an old, and I forgot which one it was, but like a very old, and it was that first printing Voivod record, and they wanted like $80. So like, that's fair, that makes sense. I'm also like, this record store that doesn't like cater, like marks up as like a metal record store who just has like, your average music fan walking through, probably doesn't connect with it, and it's probably gonna sit up there for a while. And I wish I had that money to fork on it, but it's so awesome that you have that on your wall.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I went to one of the local shops here for the first time this past year. Like I just moved here, so I'm still finding like, oh, which one's my record shop?
Where are you located, by the way?
I am near Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm not,
Coco, yeah.
but yeah, just moved to the area. Hippo Records is awesome.
Yeah.
Very nice triad area. Uh, but yeah, I went in. They had a sword record, the Canadian sword, like the
Hmm.
heavy sword. They had one of those on. I'd never seen an LP copy of that in the record shop, and just seeing it right there on the wall.
Hmm.
Uh, Spicy tag, but still, just like seeing it, it's nice to look
Hmm.
at. Fate's Warning book, like right up there on at the
Oh, I'm jealous.
record
Uh,
shop.
I've never, I've, I've never seen a Fates Warning record in a record store. Like, I'm sure you can get them on Discogs pretty readily. But yeah, I've never held a copy of one. No.
Oh no, I just saw they had the Fate's Warning book.
Okay.
I was like, okay, if they have that,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it turns out the owner's like a metalhead or whatever, and so he's
Hmm.
good stuff.
There is, I am so, I feel very blessed to use that word. Here in Minneapolis, where I live, there is a record store called Extreme Noise, and I talk about the show all the time. But it's a record store. It's primarily a punk store, but they do also just like focus on heavy music. So there's a lot of like underground metal stuff that you can't get in other record stores. So like, the labels, the metal label that like have a kind of a distribution, like the $20 spins. That stuff will always be in stock at this one record store in Minneapolis, and I'm like, hell yes. And there's a lot of like old stuff too that I didn't realize was still in print that you can get there. And it's just really cool to have a place like that that's like specializes in what I care about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, definitely very, very lucky to have those because there's definitely places where it's like, y'all don't like no metal scene, like shows don't come through there, and so I always there's fans in those places, and I'm always just like, oh, like
Yeah.
way to enjoy it.
There is another I don't even think Minneapolis is much of a metal town. Like it is like we do have metal bands, and Panopticon is also from Minnesota, but like up north. But um there is this other record store that is just kind of an all-purpose record store, but it's popular. But if you go all of the way in the back of the store, they have a
Through the feed,
box. Yeah, yeah. They have a box. It's literally a box. Not even a shelf, it's a box. And it's like taped on it. It says used obscure metal. And if you thumb through the box, I have found stuff from like Sentient Brew in there. I don't know how it ended up here. Nobody working here knows what that is, but I geek out when I find something that's like, whoa, I did not even know that I could ever find a copy of this. And it just ended up in this box.
Oh, wait, here she is again. She's going through the obscure metal box.
I am probably the only reason why that box is still there. They know that there is one person in this fucking city who cares about what's in that box. uh, being a nerd about this like very niche thing is so fun. Yeah. But then I go to like I saw Cannibal Corpse recently. Like, okay, there are other people here that are interested in what I'm interested in. Like, I'm not. It's not that out there, but also it feels like it sometimes. But you just got to kind of find the people that are into what you're into.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a very wide pool, and just like the genres, it starts like narrowing down into the different little corners and taste and how people enjoy.
Yeah,
You definitely have people that don't go searching out stuff, but they still like Metallica and Cannibal Corpse. And that,
yeah. There's a whole pool of metal fans who are only interested in like the classics, and that's great. That's fine. That is, you don't have to find new bands if you want. If Black Sabbath discography, you just want to listen to it over and over again for your 17th thousandth time. Hell yeah, buddy.
like,
I'm so happy for you.
yeah, not everybody's a seeker, you know.
Yeah,
It's like, hey, I just like that Sabbath band.
they're a good band. Have you ever heard
Yeah, like, ooh.
them? They're really cool. I think they're really good. That Ozzy guy and that Dio guy. Man.
How you feel about that Tony Martin feller?
Hmm. You know, good job, Tony. uh,
That is bag.
yeah. But Iommi is really the leader of that band, and
Yeah, absolutely.
fucking cut off his fingers. That's kind of how metal started. What our genre has the craziest origin story.
Good.
uh, well, Ryan, I don't really have anything else to ask you, but I had a shit ton of fun talking about this, and I want to, before we close out, just let you plug whatever you want to plug. Yeah, I know you. Where can people find your writing? I know you also are involved with a record label. Tell people the things.
Okay. The label's on hold right now. Like I said, just had to move, job change, getting married, but
Yeah.
it will be relit at some point. That's Mythic Ironworks, but everything's kind
Oh
of
yeah.
right now. It's hibernating. But you can listen. You listen to my writing. You can Your Last Rites, and it is a great crew there. We're in the middle of our um, end of year season. Our top 10-ish EPs came out today. We'll have our album of the year list on Friday, and then after that, we do each staffer's individual lists. So those are coming
Cool.
up.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I will be browsing them myself. Uh,
Well,
well,
it's really all I've got to plug, I think.
yeah, no.
These guys rule.
And I did comment before we recorded that the Graven shirt. I had them on the show. They are local to the Twin Cities. Fantastic death metal band. So check them out.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Ryan, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to have you on. And to my viewers at home, you know the drill, but I'm going to say it anyway. My name is Maddie, aka Beavermosh, and I'm signing off.